today. My name is Federico Hernandez from Zavi, and I'm happy to be here with two amazing women, especially Liz and Tracie. Really quickly, for those who are joining us for the first time, to your right side, you'll see that we have a chat box. And you can start writing comments. Already see Brad already from Panama. Thank you, Brad, for always being here. Of course, Liz, Christina, and everybody's joining, which is great. And if you have any questions during the event, make sure you can share it on the chat box or just write where it says I have a comment or have a question, and you can click on that, and Liz will be taking that and running the show. All right, ladies, have fun, have a great time, and adios.
Thank you, Federico.
Awesome. So a couple new things for this week. So Federico, thank you for stopping in and helping us get the show up and running. Will is, I think, on holiday this week. Will, our producer. So thank you for that. Also, you'll notice that Lou is sadly not here as well, feeling a little bit under the weather, and so he's not with us as well. So tagline who run the world, girl show.
Girls. In honor of
So,
RBG.
Yeah, our RBG, we're doing that. That's what kind of show you're talking into today. So thanks for being with us as usual. For those of you who don't know me, again, who are tuning in for the first time, I'm Liz Rhoades, a technical distiller and spirit consultant, have over a decade of experience across categories, across the alcoholic beverage sector, including several different sites, substrates, product types, beer, rum, vodka, RTDs, CBD. But of course, my particular favorite and expertise is in whiskey, which is what this show is all about. Of course, I spent most of my career at a tiny little mom and pop shop known as Diageo. But now am currently head of whiskey development at Whistle Pig Whiskey, which we've got a ton of new launches happening, which is check them out. We just are launching bourbon, which is a portfolio launch for us because we are a rye company. But if you see the bourbon out and about, please go check it out. And then I do also run a little consulting company, Spirit Safe Consulting, on the side. So that's kind of about me. I will take a small little, because Lou isn't here. So, of course, he's got his own new ventures going on. He moved off from Daily Beast. Of course, we all know Lou. But he's now, I think, writing with Flaviar, and he's got a new piece coming out. But of course, you can always go check out his book, Whiskey Masterclass, which is on Amazon. But please try to purchase directly, as we all try to do. And I will just comment that although I laugh a lot, it's not going to be as entertaining as Lou's. So we'll all try to pretend Lou's here, and he's here in spirit with us.
Yes.
Pun intended.
I should pick mine. I've got mine too, right there.
So without further ado, girl show. Super excited to have Tracie Franklin here with us. Of course, she's been around the industry for quite a while, wearing several different hats along the way, which still new hats coming on.
Yes.
I love, because I think it's all really important. Education is important. The journey of our careers is super important. I'm a life learner myself. I know you are as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk into all of that, but she has probably an over 20 plus experience across the industry. I've learned that she's been actually in hospitality since 16. And we're not going to talk about our ages here because that's not what we do. On that note, I will say that I did want to do a special birthday shout out to my partner in crimes at Whistle Pig. So Megan Ireland is celebrating her birthday today. She's our head blender. So happy birthday, Megan.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Again, age thing, but we still want to celebrate. And
Absolutely.
Frederica, yeah, thank you. My birthday was yesterday.
And
So
I was
thank
like, you just happy birthday, Liz.
yeah, so again, Tracie, she's been a brand ambassador, icon of whiskey 2020 as a Scotch brand ambassador. And, you know, we're going to learn about her experience as a consultant, her background, and also kind of her aspirations for the future, especially with Nearest Jack and her collaboration with that. So without further ado, I wanted to welcome Tracie Franklin to the hot seat today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited. I love watching you and Lou and your guests. And so it's really exciting to actually be a part of the Spirited conversation.
Awesome. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for agreeing to be on our little show. So I think really at this point we need to talk in. So what we talked about, you've been in hospitality since 16, but what really inspired you? Like, how did you get from 16-year-old Tracie to into the industry?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of twists and turns. I definitely had an unusual path. And I think that for me, I want to highlight that because so many of us think that, okay, we have to go to school, we have to study chemical engineering, we have to get out and immediately start at a distillery, you know, and that doesn't have to be true. I have so many different fun things that I've done in my life, and I'm grateful for all of them. They have all helped me get to this position. So I started out hospitality. I wanted a job that paid me as much as I could while I was in high school, right? So when you're serving tables, that was like the most money I felt like I could make. And when I was in college, I was serving tables, but I also took up bartending then, got a little bit more cash that way. But I was actually studying theater. So my goal was to be a serious actress. And I wanted to, I wanted to get an Emmy and a Tony for acting, of course. But the school found out I could sing and that I'd been dancing since I was 5. And they were like, wait a second, you can do musicals? And all of a sudden I realized, oh, musicals make like 5 times what straight plays do. Yeah, I know that some of you probably out there are like, what? I hate musicals. But musicals pay you money because you're dancing, you're singing, you're traveling. It's your body is the tool. So come on, Liz.
Okay, yeah. So we were just chatting. Well, I mean, of course, like I've gotten to know Tracie quite a bit over the past month or so, and we found out that we have very similar because I minored in vocal performance in undergrad and did musical theater and choir and whatnot until I graduated from grad school. So totally relate. And also, I've danced since I was 3.
Yeah.
So, in a way, like I feel like we're like 2 kindred spirits. Like
I do. I agree with that 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. I have to ask though, because we're this show, and if Lou was on, Lou also he is a bit of a songman himself. Actually, so I know sings with his church choir and
wonderful
as well. But taking this opportunity, favorite musical you've been in, and favorite musical to just be a spectator.
Okay, so favorite musical I've been in was The Color Purple. I was Shug Avery on the national tour. I was Shug Avery understudy and one of the dancers, and it is a musical that just really takes the audience on a journey. You can feel people open their hearts to you by the end. Like everybody's crying, everybody's clapping and laughing. Like they're so joyful by the end of the show. Being able to take that journey with an audience emotionally was such a gift. So for me, Color Purple. And to watch. Oh, you know what? Right now, I'm going to say this and it's going to be funny because right now I'm really loving the musical 6. It is really well written. It is pop music. It's about the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and they're each singing like their misery. How did they suffer under the reign as a wife of King Henry VIII? And
I'm writing this down right now.
It was just so much fun. I wanted to get on my feet and dance with them. You laughed the whole time, and I think also right now at this time, I really need things that are light to be in my life. I need laughter. I need more joy. And I try to do that for other people. And to be fed that from the stage was just a lovely evening. Yeah. That's, so I'm choosing 6.
Okay. Color purple.
They're so different, right? These are literally the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, they're totally opposite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna chime in real quick. I don't have a favorite musical that I'm into right now, but a really favorite musical that I performed in was Fiddler on the Roof, because I performed as a man.
Okay. So I did do a show as a man once.
Did you?
It was a show called Blonde-Haired Bandit, and it was with Jennifer Wren, who was also a Glenfiddich ambassador. She worked for a couple other brands, which right now I'm sorry, they're Jura, and so we both played men, and that was how we met each other. And we've gone on to become the best of friends, and both into whiskey. And yeah, and playing a man.
Yeah. Singing and dancing while being bound. Yeah, that's endurance.
The only time I had to be bound was when I played Little Red Riding Hood, because she's a child, so I had to be bound to look like I had no boobs.
Yeah,
not fun.
Okay, so that's super interesting, and I really love that, especially because our industry, there are a lot of different facets of our industry, and you hit it on the head. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a chemical engineer, and we're just going to bop. And even though that's not clear cut even now, because there aren't clear pathways.
Right.
And you definitely took a very interesting pathway. So, okay, let's flash back. You graduated.
I graduated.
You're a BA.
I went on tour. I went on a cruise ship as a singer and toured the Mediterranean, the Baltic, and the Caribbean. Then I booked a Disney show and I toured all over the world. We started in New Zealand. I went to Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, all through South America, Holland, France, Spain. Just traveled the world for a while, and then was like, you know what? This is a kid's show and I would like to perform for adults now. So I moved to New York. I booked Hairspray, booked Ragtime, just toured doing that. But when I wasn't on tour, I needed to make some money. And so I was bartending, and I just started to really, and also while I'm touring, I like to, hang out with everybody else. Everybody's drinking. And I had kind of a sensitive vocal cord, so I couldn't always drink everything, but I could drink whiskey. So if I drank whiskey, I was fine to sing in the morning. So guess what became my favorite drink?
Whiskey. That's what the show's about. So of course.
So I just started to realize my gateway whiskey was Ardbeg 10. I smelled it from like across the bar. I was like, what is that? That's crazy. To learn more about this. Yeah. So then fell in love with peated whiskeys, and just from there, my passion really grew as I realized how large a category whiskey is and how diverse those flavors could be. Because honestly, my real obsession, I think, is just in flavor. I love flavor. I love food. I love drink. I love to experience different flavors. That is my true passion. I was working as a bartender, but also loved whiskey. So started going to whiskey tastings. People started asking me to help them set up so I could go for free. Thank you, all those awesome people in New York who helped me go for free. And then they started actually being like, well, honestly, would you like to tour? And so I just kind of worked my way up as just kind of a sampler for Diageo. So working for Ardbeg and Glenmorangie, not Diageo, I'm sorry, for Hennessy. So I would do champagne and then Ardbeg and Glenmorangie, sorry. And then I moved to Florida with my husband, who got a job at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that is actually where the Glenfiddich brand ambassador sat in front of me. And I poured him out a flight. We talked Glenfiddich all afternoon. And then he asked for my resume when he left. And things kept going. Honestly, that was also around the same time that I went to Whistlepig with Dave Pickerel and did that startup and first really understood, okay, wait, I really like distilling. I really like stills. I had been working with a small distillery called Florida Cane, and they were just getting their stills up. They were doing a vodka distillation, and we were just working on what their whiskey was going to be like. So, building a worm, building their condensers and getting, buckets with your, totally handmade. Like, how everybody starts. Really, it felt like we were making moonshine, but it was legal. So that really, it just got my passion going. And instead of going into distillation, though, the job from Glenfiddich, that offer came first. And so I decided that it was really important for this industry to see somebody step outside of the bounds, break a ceiling, and become the Black woman ambassador on single malt Scotch. I just hadn't seen it. It wasn't even like
which
we
needed.
I just hadn't seen it before. I thought it would be something that could be impactful. I also really, really loved single malt Scotch, and I wanted people to know that it was a place for them, because so often I would have people just be like, "Oh, that's going to put hair on your chest. Oh, you drink that? Oh, you like all the things." And
yeah, everything that I've been received, yes.
Yeah. So this was an opportunity to just prove everybody wrong and stand up in front of classes and entrance them in what I knew and what I loved. So that's really what I've been doing for a while. And as much as I could, I would go back to Glenfiddich. They would let us go to any of the distilleries they owned. I would run around Scotland, in the States, whoever would take me, I would just kind of pop in. And it happened that I was on a panel with Fawn Weaver, and she talked about a program that she was starting with Jack Daniels. So Fawn Weaver is the CEO of Nearest Green Distillery. Sorry. And the program is the Nearest Jack Advancement Initiative. So she asked, what do I want to do with the rest of my life?
A small little question.
But for me, I still had that really strong pull towards production. I just loved it. I love data. I love organization. I love putting my head down and making something. I don't always need to be in front of an audience. I'm good at in front of an audience. I really do enjoy teaching, but I also love sometimes just being quiet and doing that hard work. So I started in the Leadership Acceleration Program, and my focus is on distillation. So I'm working on my diploma in distillation from the Institute of Brewing and Distilling. Yeah. I've been traveling the United States, visiting distilleries. I tried to put some around. So I've got my Sagamore, Catoctin, Whiskey Pig, going around and seeing everybody.
By the way, your backdrop, and I've commented on this before because we've had calls outside of this, is on point.
Thank you.
I think I'm just gonna take a snapshot of that and
it's
put
fun,
it in
right?
the background.
Well, that was the thing, is I had a little, I used to do it in my room, and I've got paintings and just this little rack of whiskeys, but I kept wanting to get other whiskeys. So then I'd run out of the room, and it's we need to do this. We need to set something up where I can just stand up and grab what I want. Yeah, when I'm talking, right? This makes way more sense. So yeah, traveling the US, visiting distilleries, really getting a perspective on what people are doing that's innovative, or just what is it that drives that particular distillery? What are their theories? What are their beliefs on flavor creation? How's their teamwork? What is their communication like? What is their blending process, quality control? Just trying to really understand how diverse all of these different practices are, and bring them into, and hopefully bring it into something that I then will create and help to bring to another group of people. I am still working on what's next. I'm in some interviews right now, so that's pretty exciting. Oh, it's very exciting and scary, but I'm in interviews to just continue with distillation and to help some people build some wonderful teams. Really what I want is to be a part of a team to continue to learn and grow, and to be able to help this industry become more colorful, right? More diverse, more joyful. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to circle back to that
Okay.
because I think we need to lean into that, especially, just everything going on right now. And I think that's prudent. But I wanted to kind of flip back. So, and this is, for me, because of my, obviously, Whistle Pig. How did you get involved with Dave? Because I, unfortunately, never had the privilege of meeting him, working with him. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain. How did that all come about?
No problem. Absolutely. So Dave used to always come to Tampa. That's really, I think I met him once in New York prior to that. But he would come to the Tampa, the Prohibition Party, the Repeal Day Party, sorry. And so I met him. So that's where I met him. And I just would literally corner him and peck questions at him about whiskey and distillation. He'd get away from me, girl. And would instead give me books. Here, go read that book. Okay, go read that book. And so he realized I was reading those books and coming back with more questions and highlighting things. And just, I really, really was hungry for knowledge. And he said, well, why don't you just come along with me? And oh my gosh, I thought it was the most amazing thing. And just watching him work, his brain was just so, he is so in tune. I mean, I guess you would be after 30 years at Maker's Mark. But the way that he was able, so like for me, like I sit down and I'm like, okay, cool. I need to actually work out these formulas and figure out. And he could just kind of really just, and I'm sure it's experience, just do that all in his head and be like so close. Cause I'd be like working on the side. I'm like, I'm almost there. And he's like, oh, it's this. And I'm like, darn it. But he was really generous with his knowledge. I would ask a ton of questions all day long, but also just really listen to what he was considering, like, and just ask questions and like, what is important as you're making this decision? Like, what are all of the different factors that you're considering? I feel like it's the same thing that I'm asking now as I'm running around to distilleries, and even more now that I'm working on my diploma. It's giving me all of those really like detailed topics. Like it's really giving like factors that I hadn't thought of before. So many different factors, right? So before, like when I was looking at whiskey, it had 96 different faces, and now it's just like that has it's multiplied immensely, and it makes it that much more exciting, but also that much more it just be humbling, I guess. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and everything you said I relate to, because it's not straightforward. And every site you walk into, you need to apply a different lens to.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes our industry so dynamic and interesting. And like reverting back to my previous phrase about life learner, you're a life learner, I'm a life learner, and I think that to put that cap on and say no one size fits all, I think is really important. So I think we're right there. Go ahead.
Well, interesting that you say that one size fits all. I think that is actually what is keeping this industry from growing. Because what we're doing is, I feel like this industry had just fallen into a pattern, right? And this was how we hired. This is how we make whiskey. This is how we mature. Right? Yeah, because we are traditional. It's heritage. We don't want to change these things. Whereas I think that we can continue to hold on to heritage, hold on to tradition, but also really play in the innovation that's here today. Really play into all of the amazing new palettes that we have. But while not forgetting that heritage, we don't want to forget where we came from, but anyone would want us to use the tools we have to grow. And I think that sometimes we get stuck in a rut because we always hold on to traditions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And we've had this conversation before about Scotch, right? Yes. Huge tradition. Yes. I know we're at a crossroads now. A lot of our whiskey is based on regulation here, and now we're right in a crossroads with American single malt.
Woohoo!
Yeah, which is fantastic. I know we're excited about it. You're excited about it.
I really hope they're removing the addition of flavorings.
Right, but what is the standard? Right, when it hasn't been something that has been a tradition.
Yes.
In our country.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of other countries who are thinking about single malt category, they look to the Scotch whiskey industry. But I really like how we took a step back and said, no, like this is about us. Right. This is about our agriculture, what is available, what our palates are like, and what have you. So I think we're doing a really good job about taking a step back here in the US. Even if we're talking about varietals.
Yeah.
It's really a lot to crack there, and so I think we are doing a good job about that. But we've got some, minutia there. We've got to finalize that. So, the point you mentioned. Okay, so
and the only reason I say this is I'm just really, really sad to every day see a new flavored whiskey. We've got pickle whiskey. I saw the other day. I don't know what is that, but it says bourbon on it, right? Because it's bourbon with flavor.
Pickleback.
What?
The pickleback, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay if people are doing a pickleback, but I don't know if I want it in a bottle. However, I also do want that exploration, right? So if I'm going to want it on one end, why not want it on the other? I guess what I actually want is for labeling to be a little more clear. I think that's what I want. Because I'm not mad at anyone for making pickle whiskey.
Just transparency is what you're saying.
I think it's really important. I think that people have to understand that is a different style of whiskey than what you're getting for the typical bourbon. It's not just bourbon with, flavor.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of touch in on your brand ambassador experience and how that's helped gear you to distillery management. And for those of you not familiar, and also let's talk about the Nearest Jack advancement initiative, because I think maybe folks aren't familiar with that, and I think that'll dovetail into our next conversation point. But let's talk about your experience as a brand ambassador. So, right, you have this huge performance background, and I think I get it. That nicely dovetails into being a brand ambassador. And then let's talk about that and how that kind of
then turns into this.
Go learn some more in operations. Yeah,
absolutely. Because so with being a brand ambassador, it's funny because as soon as I became the Glenfiddich ambassador, I went and wiped everything off the internet that was my performance, because I didn't want people thinking that because I was a brand, that I had only become a brand ambassador because I could perform. Right. Okay. I didn't want that to be that. I actually did love whiskey. I loved Scotch. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to inspire people. And I didn't want people to think that I was only doing it because it's another way to perform. So I didn't want that performance background to be as visible. So I haven't looked, I'm sure there's something up there, but I took down like my site. I took down all my little performance clips and all that. Yeah. And I really wanted to hone in and focus and become the best ambassador that I could, which for me meant understanding my product as well as I could, understanding the other products that were competitors, or, gentle competitors. We all love each other out there. But really understanding how we all fit into this category, where everybody's place was, and to be able to relate that to people that were just getting into the category or people that were experts. I wanted to just always be able to speak to somebody and present to them in a way that was inspiring. So I think that a lot of people noticed, because I also wasn't just talking to the usual whiskey tasters, right? I was creating events that were a little more unique. So creating events that had live music and jazz clubs. We did cupcake shops, doing like whatever it was that I could think of that I thought might fit in a way that was different and might bring in a crowd that hadn't been able to approach whiskey in that way before. I wanted to create a safe and inclusive environment for us to just talk about it and not feel like we were being intimidated, right? I know that as I was learning, I often felt very intimidated, and people would try to make me feel like I didn't belong in some of those spaces. And I refused to do that to somebody else. I wanted to ensure that no matter what I was hosting, what I was doing, that everybody felt included.
So I'm gonna lean in this, and then maybe we'll get technical here.
Okay.
But I think that's a really important piece, like the inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just flashing back to the first time I stepped into a homebrew shop.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And
that'd have been awesome.
And knowing that I'd done the research and whatever, and this is now, I'm dating myself. This was about 15 years ago at this point.
Okay.
But I remember that, and it's like, testosterone, male-dominated, whatever, and feeling intimidated being this like little girl, right?
I mean, at that time, you were pretty young. 15. So we're not talking ages.
We're not putting your ages right now. We're just talking through. But I remember that, and feeling like you always need to know more, or whatever it is. I think we've done a really good job. I think we're still evolving our industry, specifically with the whiskey industry.
Yeah.
About being inclusive. Yeah. So I think this is a good point to kind of talk about your journey a little bit more and lean into that, and also what's going on with the Nearest Jack.
Great. Okay. Absolutely. So one of the things I do want to say is I don't want people to feel like, ooh, she's attacking our industry, because honestly, people have been, especially the people that I've what's happening in the industry, a lot of it is just institutionalized, right? It's just, these are the people that know to fill out the applications. These are people that live in those areas. These are the people that are friends with those people. It's not something that's, I don't think, typically done consciously. And if there is an opportunity to do something outside of that, people have jumped on it, right? So people have jumped at the opportunity to help me, to allow me in their distillery, to let me shadow for a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, to let me just work and learn and really get this under my belt, because they want to see more diversity. They want more palates, because again, all ships rise, right? So as we are building, I believe in that wholeheartedly. And as we know that as we get more diversity and more palates, we have better ideas, there's more better problem solving, like we make more money, like there's all of these things that have been done business-wise. But also you have an environment where you grow as a person, as an individual, interacting with all different people. So I think that's also something wonderful to think about. Now, how do we actually create these pipelines? Because we've got to create opportunities for people that don't know that this really exists. So one of the things that happens with me is I am always like, my family kind of doesn't appreciate, I'm going to say it that way, what I do, because alcohol is not often looked upon fondly within the Black community, especially if your family is religious. It is a really, really tough conversation for me to have sometimes, because it's alcohol and they don't want you working in alcohol. So that's a barrier to entry for some people. And also, just again, I didn't know you didn't have to be a chemical engineer. So I was like, I'm not doing that. Great. All I'm going to do is go and be like shoveling grain. Like I can't. And then it was like, wait, I can learn this and I don't have to get an engineering. I can actually go get my diploma. There are courses where I can actually start to learn a lot more of that detail and that science. And yes, I'm on the side taking a physics class, and yes, I'm on the side taking my general chemistry, but I'm doing that because I love it, and because I'm doing that, I'm joining this later in life. So if you want to later in life make this change, you have to invest in education.
Not because it's a job description, because you're passionate and you realize it's a tool for your growth and for what you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to be able to be in those rooms and have the conversations that are technical. And I want to understand all of the different choices that I have when I'm distilling, when I'm maturing, whenever I'm part of the process I'm at. I want to understand every single option that I have. And so you can't do that unless you're constantly studying, constantly talking, constantly asking questions. So how do we create that opportunity? Approaching HBCUs is going to be a great way that we can just tell people. Because also one of the things, we have to stop highlighting the fact that the whiskey industry is just a blender and distiller. That's not true. Like, we need to really highlight the fact that the industry has every single job. We have engineers, we have accountants, we have lawyers, we have every single job exists within the spirits industry. So if you want to be in this industry, do what you love and then find that path in. Don't feel like you have to do something that is going to lead to a role that is in quality control or is in, the only thing that I do see is there are some physical limitations, but even that's being worked on. That is a discussion that is happening more and more now, is about invisible disability, which now I am one of those people that actually knows what that means, which is weird. But also now I can be a proponent for those who may not be as tall as I am, which is honestly the biggest thing I've seen.
Which, by the way, you're taller than I am. So
I know, because I actually meant that for you. Anyway, so and I think that we're approaching HBCUs. The Nearest Jack Initiative is using 3 prongs. So there's actually a business incubation program where they're helping out Nord Distillery. They helped them rebuild. Their vodka's now on Delta. They've got great branding, great marketing, and that was done through this program. So amazing. There will be another business that they will also incubate coming up soon. There is the Nearest Green School of Distillation. That's in Tennessee. They're going to be having an AA program that's all about distillation, so people can come out and be operators. So we'll be able to get people in and operating those stills and, and understanding that basic science. And there is the program I'm in, the Leadership Acceleration Program, where they'll have a few candidates who will study distillery management or brand ambassadorship or whatever it is that really feeds them. And mine was a 2-year program. Really, it'll see how it fits on everybody. I'm coming to the end of my program, and so now I'm just looking for a job. But I think those 3 ways are important. So through education, through taking people already in the industry and helping them fast track to a role where they can make a difference. And then also making sure that you're taking businesses who need assistance and helping them get to the next level.
That's awesome. So first of all, this program, right, it's still in its infancy. It's just been around for a few years. you mentioned, which I, definitely think our industry needed, which is amazing. You're in the acceleration leadership program, and there's these other programs, obviously. So actually, I do remember I was on a Delta flight a couple months ago and saw Denord, and
I love it.
I did a little dance. I think I'm like.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, what I love is there's also more programs coming that are like this. So the ACSA also has one, which I'm really, really proud of. They're doing Step Up. There's the Michael Jackson program, which he's got both brewing and distilling scholarships. So there's a lot of stuff coming where they're providing access for people to get more education and more access to opportunity. So it's happening. We're changing. Like, we're really creating this growth, and I'm excited for what's to come.
And so you mentioned Step Up, and I was going to mention Step Up as well, because Step Up. And I think they're accepting.
I wonder the applications. Yeah, I would definitely take a look. I know we're going to be reading through them soon. I'm on the board to decide.
Okay. So I don't think we have a link to that.
Sorry, guys. Step Up. American Craft Spirits Association.
Their ACSA.
It's a great program. So it's a 1-year program. You do some work with the distributor. You do work with, I think, 3 distilleries, and it's a full year. It is a paid internship, and it sounds amazing.
So applications, I think, until October 1st is what I read.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Get on it, guys. Yes.
What is it? Okay, so I see a number of shout outs here. Oh, thank you. Yakintoro. I mispronounced.
Yes, Yaki, are you there? Is he there?
Yeah, he is. He should. I'm sorry, but it sounds like, thanks for the Step Up. Shout out, Tracie.
Awesome.
And then there is a link there.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you
for hosting that. Again, I was just getting ready to submit a proposal this morning for ACSA next year, and I saw that in the website. So,
yes, I'm excited about what you're proposing, actually. And actually, we could talk about that too. So one of my favorite things about, unless you want to go on to more diversity.
No, let's meander.
So one of my favorite visits, this is not to say any of my visits were better than others, but one of my favorite visits was to Westland.
Oh, yes.
Because they work with the Bread Lab and Dr. Steven. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Guys, my mind was blown. So while I understood the commodity markets, I understood how this worked. I don't think I understood how impactful it was on everything we eat and everything that we do and how farmers survive. And the fact that we're not working harder to get away from this, especially as whiskey people, like, yes, I understand, like, we need such large amounts, but man, we could really help our farmers if we could help them to be able to create grain that works for their environment. Like, if they were,
their environment, their soil, and also, I mean, subsidies is one thing, but also and I know Westland's doing a great job about that, right? Here's an experimental crop. However, we've got your back. We're partners, right? We're partners in this.
Right, because that yield, it could be like down to nothing. Like, we know that typically these yields are going to be lower, especially when you're first starting. But I'm sure that once we start to really hone in on what belongs in those areas, we could get back to a much more significant yield. But yes, we would have to really invest in this. And this is something that I think is going to have to be an industry-wide program to have the money to invest in farmers so that they don't lose money. Right now, on the commodity market, they are getting those subsidies, but they're still also kind of getting like bad end of the stick. And I just really hope that we're able to work better with them and create better grain, not just for our farmers, for our whiskey, but also for the world.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And actually, so the proposal, I'm doing a teaser alert.
Teaser, sneak peek.
So Mike Swanson of Far North Spirits and I are doing a joint presentation, and we're going to do a farm to flask.
Super excited.
Just touching on a lot of those notes: climate change, what to expect with new varietals, and what to test for, and how that translates to operations and flavor. So I swear I didn't tease Tracie about this at all, but yeah.
You didn't, but I think it's such an important conversation to be having around whiskey right now. It's honestly always top of mind. I think another one is water, right? Because we use so much water, and I think that there's still so many practices that are just wasteful that don't need to be. There's some simple fixes that we could put into distilleries that we just don't do.
And efficiency on the on the field, but also in the op.
Absolutely.
And I know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Kevin Smith is on. He said he was gonna try to hop on, but I think
I love you, Kevin. He's awesome. Badass. Sorry, don't know.
There's also alcohol school in Montreal this week too.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's something for sure that I'm pretty passionate about is yield and efficiency in the operation, because that means we're using our resources and utilizing our resources in the most efficient way.
Right.
And it also translates to water and our
heat exchange and transfers and all of that. Yeah, there's so many different ways to think about energy as well in that.
All right, so quickly, so I know you have to dip off early. We're gonna end early today, and then I'm gonna cover off on some cool admin stuff popping up. So couple
any questions up there?
A couple of shout outs. So Brad, of course, our boy Brad. Hey Brad, thanks for joining us today. Christina as well. Hello from Berlin, Germany.
Oh, wonderful.
And she's been along with our ASOC journey. Brad, thank you for the birthday wishes.
Yay.
And and then more about okay, so there's a question, and you were saying Yaki is the nickname. Okay, Yaki, thanks for joining us. And his question, did any of your past acquaintances think you got into whiskey due to avoid failure in performance arts? Wow, that's
no, actually, because I was actually doing well. I was booking.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I actually left an off-Broadway show like that and went straight to, my husband went before I did to go down to Tampa. What was happening was I was booking incorrectly. So my agent felt like my voice was now maturing to a point that my body wasn't, right? So I sounded like an older woman, but everyone looked at me and thought, oh, she should be kicking her face and dancing all over the stage still. And I really wasn't in that place anymore. Yeah. And so I left to go and just try something a little bit different. The goal was not to leave the industry. The goal was actually to just go to Florida, do theater down there, fly up to New York for my auditions, and it just kind of didn't happen because I got health insurance and a 401k and our IRA and like all of these things. And I was like, wait, you get a car, you get car allowance, whatever. Like, what? And it was just really, really tempting to have all of those things in the whiskey industry. It was just security, and it was really nice to have security. It was really nice to be constantly appreciated, to be asked first. Theater, even when I was booking, was still really hard to hear no. It was still really hard to constantly have somebody nitpicking who you are and what you do. And I've been doing it for a long time. So I thought it was just going to be a short break, honestly. And I've seen some friends since, and most of them don't perform, but the one friend that does, well, more than one does, but she's actually touring in Hadestown. She is the Green Lady. She came here to the Kennedy Center, and she pulled me aside and she's like, Tracie, this role that I'm doing is meant for you, because she knows me, she knows my voice. And she's like, if you ever think about going back, and sometimes I do, I still have my equity card, so I could go back. So yeah, I kept my equity card. And so she's like, you should really audition for this role. And I do think about it. But I also really, I'm really pretty comfortable and secure where I am right now. And if I can combine the two, which is something I'm kind of thinking about. I have an idea in mind. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we could go on forever and ever.
Probably.
And we have to leave. And I just wanted to leave it with, if there's one technical thing that you were super excited to dig into and into the future within whiskey, what is that one piece? We talked climate change. Obviously, that's a big one.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely going to be about really creating grain that is good for the earth, good for the farmer, good for us, good for flavor. I think really getting deep into what that looks like. So probably what you're going to be presenting. Tomorrow I'm going to ADI and I'm going to be taking part in the corn masterclass. So it's going to be talking all about heirloom corns and those things being and how they're being raised and how they affect the terroir.
In the environment.
Of the whiskey. So I'm just going to stick with that. I think that for me, it's really about the grain, but the grain at a level that's really important for environment, for people, nutrition, flavor, all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I love it because it again, it's like one of the greatest loves about our industry, and what I talk about is that whiskey is rooted in agriculture, and you got to start there, right?
Yeah.
You know, de novo, from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So I wholeheartedly agree.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, I do love the end product. I love, blending. I love what we're doing with different maturation styles and all of that. But I want to see it for farmers first. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, Tracie, I know you have to dip off.
Sorry,
really
guys.
appreciate your time today. It's been a super interesting conversation as
Thank
usual.
Thank you.
Travel safe over to St. Louis, and
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
And if anybody wants, you go to my Instagram, Spirited_Tracie with an IE. Right now in my stories, I have a bourbon whiskey quiz. So on Monday nights, I put up a quiz and it goes into Tuesday. So it's up right now. Take a look. I don't know what you answer. Just know I can't see if you get it wrong. I don't. But it's a little tricky. Have fun.
Cool. Well, we're saying goodbye to Tracie. I'm going to have a few admin things to wrap up, but we'll see you later, Tracie.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for having me, Liz. Take care.
All right, just me here. So thank you so much for joining us. I see there was a question here that Yaki put out here in the chat. Heard about any advances in boiler technology since we're talking about the grain economy? That's a really good question, and I think there are a lot of advancements, and not necessarily boiler technology in full, but just how we're utilizing our resources. I think is a big one. For us, for example, heat exchange and how we're utilizing that, to heat up our beer feed through condensers. And whatnot. I think there's a lot there, but I'm not actually too up to speed on boiler technology. So unfortunately, I can't answer that one. But if you want to hit me up offline, I think let's have a conversation about that. But certainly there's a lot of technology out there, I think, to be more efficient. That being said, really appreciated having Tracie on. We missed Lou's laugh. I'm not even going to try to attempt a Lou laugh. But coming back, our next show is, I believe, the 27th. So in 2 weeks. And we're going to have Christian Crookshead from Westward Distilling on to chat with us about what's going on there. So please come back, join us on for that show. Really appreciate everyone chiming in today. And I think we're ending early, but again, I think we'll end it there. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great week. Cheers, guys.